What is the apparent variety in forms? There is no variety in forms. You say there are many forms, and you use the word form to denote all forms, this form and that form. What is that form which is common to all forms? It is changeless and therefore beyond the realm of the mind. So you simply use the word form and drag it down to the realm of the mind and make it stand for what it is not. Things extraneous to form are brought in to create variety in forms. Form is one and the same. It is changeless and hence beyond the realm of the mind. Therefore, form, when rightly examined, is the ultimate reality itself. Hence, there is no variety in forms. And likewise, there is no variety in other sense objects as well. Thus, man is the ultimate reality. The tree is the ultimate reality. The flower is the ultimate reality. The sound which is common to all sounds knows no variety, just as form which is common to all knows no variety. So you can never speak of various forms or various sounds. Without going into the generic sound, you cannot invent a name. The generic in all cases is the ultimate reality. The generic in you naturally refuses to be limited in any way, and so you always bring in generic names. The generic subject sees the generic object, and the particular subject sees the particular object only. It is the generic that always manifests itself, but the mind has a peculiar self-deception. In it somehow chooses only the particular. That is how the world appears. The general rule by which the inquiry into the truth of this world proceeds is from the particular to the general. So in order to explain the variety in objects and perceptions, we have to get to the background and then look at the apparent variety. And we see that the variety vanishes altogether. Viewed from another angle of vision, we see that objects first sensed by the senses are immediately transformed into knowledge when known. Then all objectivity and variety vanish, and consciousness alone remains. God and worship. Vision of a personal God is quite possible. It would seem even more real than any experience in the waking state, because that vision takes place in an intenser light. Is God the same to all? No. It changes according to what one identifies oneself with in life. To the man who identifies himself with his body, God is also embodied. To one who identifies himself with the mind, God is also possessed of the best of all attributes. To him who transcends even the mind, God is the Absolute itself. What exactly is idol worship? You cannot worship anything but a form. Concepts and perceptions are all forms. But Brahman, the absolute, all-comprehending, and the infinite, is also a form. An idol is only something known particularly. It is the symbol of the absolute. But in fact, nobody worships the idol, because in practice, after looking at the idol for a few moments, you invariably close your eyes and contemplate that of which the idol is only a symbol. So nobody worships the idol, and nobody can worship without an idol. Can you speak of the Ishtamurti, its scope and limitation? God is logically defined as the highest manifestation of the human mind. Similarly, the Ishtamurti, the form of God chosen for worship, is also the creation of one's own mind. You give to it the form and qualities you like most, and therefore it is called Ishtamurti, which literally means embodiment of liking. It has exactly the same characteristics as an ordinary object, but with this difference, that it is highly magnified. Let us inquire into and examine an object. It is not an intrinsic, indivisible whole. It is constituted of three distinct and separate elements. The first, form perception, which is the immediate creation of the sense organ concerned. And second, a fund of ideas or concepts thrown out by the mind to supplement the perception. And third, a sense of existence or reality or permanency, which forms the background upon which the perception and concept can appear. This last one, this permanence or existence, can never be the contribution of either the changing senses or of the changing mind. It is the contribution of consciousness beyond even the mind. In order to get at the truth of any object, it has to be analyzed till its generic form is reached, eliminating the changing parts in the process. Then the object gets reduced to its essence or substance. Neither the individual nor the Ishtamurti is an exception to this rule, but the Ishtamurti has one particular advantage over all other objects, in that it has no sensual or perceptual form to begin with. It has only a form of ideas or concepts, with universal qualities like all-knowingness, all-pervasiveness, and such, attributed to it. In order to understand the Ishtamurti correctly, one has to eliminate the form made up of ideas and qualities from the background existence. But this existence which is left over is, for the time being, recognized by the aspirant only as nothingness or blankness. The meaning and the essence of this blank wall of ignorance still remains a mystery to the mind. The mind can never unravel it by its own unaided efforts. This same state of mind transcending mystery is attained by following very many other paths and by exercises like meditation and devotion and chanting of mantras and other yoga types. The aspirant is invariably stranded in this apparently pleasurable state, taking it for the highest, or being unable to get beyond, or being attracted by the sense of pleasure in the state. In all these instances, the inquiry is made purely objectively, ignoring the subject altogether. It is true that the object is reduced to its most generic form, but the subject still remains as a subject. As long as the least trace of subjectivity remains, objectivity cannot disappear. And until objectivity disappears completely, the real nature of the object can never be visualized. This is the fundamental error committed by science as well as philosophy, both in India and outside, in trying to approach the truth through the medium of the mind. But the remedy is the Guru, who is established in the ultimate truth and who is prepared to lead another to it, that can help one out of this darkness. The aspirant has so far been examining things outside himself, from the self-assumed stronghold of the mind. But the Guru, if one is fortunate enough to secure one, draws the attention of the aspirant away from the object to the subject so far ignored. The truth about the real nature of this subject is then expounded to the aspirant in the most unambiguous terms and in the light of the aspirant's own direct experience. He is thus enabled to visualize his own real nature beyond the shadow of a doubt. He is then asked to review his former problems from his own real and permanent stand, which he has directly experienced and visualized. But to his utter bewilderment and joy, he finds every problem standing self-solved to perfection, and himself free from all bondage. What appeared first as an insurmountable blank wall of ignorance now appears as the most concrete and self-luminous truth within. How to visualize the real God? Conceding God as the creator of the universe, God must have existed even before creation, all alone as the impersonal. God in his real nature cannot be seen from or through any created thing. So body and mind are incapable of understanding God. We are forced, therefore, to look out for some principle in man which was not created. The real I principle, defying all the three states, is found not to have been created. So by taking to this I principle of pure consciousness, you may be able to visualize the real God. This is what Vedanta tells you. Vedanta does not deny God at all. Standing as that I principle of pure consciousness, you see that you are all alone in deep sleep. There is no other God there. So this I principle is one with God, and they mean the same. But how can a prayer to a personal God lead to fulfillment? Man ordinarily takes himself to be very, very insignificant compared to the vast universe. He finds his mind, with all its limitations, is unable to explain many things in this vast universe. It is also unable to achieve many of its desires. He conceives God as the Lord of all the universe and all-powerful. And so, naturally, he prays to God to get his desires fulfilled. Though ignorant of the immense powers and potential of his own mind, he unconsciously releases in this way all the powers that lie dormant in him towards the creation of the Godhead he has conceived. Thus, the very powers of the devotee himself, in the name and form of God, of which he has conceived, come back and take effect in the fulfillment of his own prayers. But the devotee takes it all meekly, attributing it to the grace of God, taking God as something entirely different from himself. In getting his prayers thus fulfilled, he attaches more importance to the fulfillment of his desires than to knowing the nature of the Godhead called to his help. He relinquishes thereby all the spiritual values involved in that communion with God. He wants to get to the truth, but does not crave for fulfillment of individual desires, for he is concerned with spiritual values alone. And proceeding that way, he ultimately comes back to his own self and realizes God as his own self. But some say that it is only after death that one can become one with God. Is it true? At the moment of every enjoyment of happiness, you are really momentarily dead and have become one with God, whose real nature, Swarupa, is objectless happiness. Then your body is relaxed, the sense organs refuse to function, the mind ceases to think or feel, and you enjoy happiness as you call it. All the principles that claim to live have, for that moment, died. Therefore, you are actually dying every moment to become God. So don't wait for the last death of the body, but know that you are doing it every moment, and you become God himself, which is the real advaita. Grace. What is the meaning of grace? Really, it is a meaningless word. But the Shastras, the traditional sacred texts, endorse it in a certain way, explaining this with the words from, as Shankara said in the Viveka Chudamani, to be born as a human being, to have a keen desire for liberation, and to come into contact with the sage are the three rare possibilities obtained by divine grace alone. Animals exist and man also exists, but man exists and knows he exists. This differentiates man from animals, and it is this which is meant by the manness referred to. Since the word manhood is weak, it does not convey the sense implied, so a new word, manness, is coined for this purpose. Absorption in the process by which the subject and the object become one with the I principle. Absorption of everything created by the mind back into the self, the absolute, with the help of the functioning consciousness, is the purpose of our lives. The real grace of the absolute is in having endowed us with the two simple instruments of consciousness and happiness, for the specific purpose of absorbing everything into ourselves by knowledge and love. But often we do not recognize it in our ordinary activities, and yet we go through the whole process of such absorptions unknowingly.